Hello everyone, we're on, we're live. If you're able to give me a thumbs up if you can hear me, because I had a few problems with my audio this morning. I think we're okay. So I've got my phone somewhere, so if you can't hear me, I guess you'll let me know. Welcome. So it's Sunday morning. No idea what date it is. Oh, 26th of July, there it is. And today we're going to do some work on the hips. I sent out the sheet and I'm not sure if you have had time to look up what the poses are. They're all poses that we've been working on this week in class. And I'll try to give you some modifications for those that can't, because one of the poses is going to be Padmasana, lotus pose. But there are always alternatives. So we're going to start with Swastikasana for the invocation, and then we'll take some movements within that pose as well, right? And just for those of you, again, who are joining for the first time, this is not a practice for beginners. This is for students that already have a regular practice. And any questions, just feedback to me. Okay, so we'll start with the invocation to Patanjali. So sit tall, press the hands down, lift the sides of your body up, roll your shoulders back, and then bring the palms together in front of the chest and close the eyes and draw your senses inwards. And I'll chant the invocation to Patanjali. Yogena chittasya padena vacham malam sharirasya javaidhyakena yopa karotam pravaram muninam patanjalim pranjaliranatosmi abahu purushakaram Shankachakra Siddharinam Sahasra Shirasam Svetam Pranamami Patanjalim Hari Om. Maintaining the lift in the chest, we bow our head down in honor of all our teachers. And to Patanjali for the Yoga Sutras. And then release your hands, raise your head, open your eyes, and extend your legs forwards. Okay, so change the cross of the legs, and we'll begin with Parvatasana. So I was going to say about the knees particularly, because there's a lot of hip work, which obviously involves some knee work, but if you have any pain in your knees when you're doing these poses, it is to be avoided. But that doesn't mean to say that we kind of destroy the anatomy of the pose. So if, for example, in this pose, this cross leg, the leg that's nearest to you is paining, the angle is slightly more closed than on this leg. So that means that you could bring the leg forwards like that, or even have the feet further forward. So you still maintain that cross, but you're not in any pain. Okay, so you don't want to have pain in your knee joints. It's not a good sign. Okay, so we're changing the cross of the legs, and we're going to do Parvatasana, which is the interlock fingers. So we'll bring the hands forwards, interlock, turn the palms, and lift the arms up. We're just going to hold these for a few breaths today, because we have to change sides and change arms, so there's lots of sides to these poses. And we'll change the interlock of the fingers and then release, and then we'll change the cross of the legs and do again. So I'm holding for 5 long breaths, or medium breaths. So again, interlock. And if you want to think about the grip of the hips as your focus, if we were preparing for back bends, we might think about the thoracic spine a bit more. But you can focus on that squeezing action of the outer hips. And then change the interlock of the fingers. Although there is quite a bit of shoulder work as well coming, so don't neglect to really extend through the arms. And then release. And then we've got Parsva, which means to the side. So keep the same cross. We'll swing the arms up and turn to your right. When you turn, remember not to pull the thigh up. Come back to the front, swing the arms up, over to the left, watching that you don't disturb the base of the pose. Of course, you don't lean onto that right buttock more than the left. And then back to the front, change the cross of the legs again. Over to the right. You can use the back of the hand on the outer knee, outer thigh. And to the left. And then back. Okay, so the final Swastikasana movements and lots of crossing of the legs, which is great for the hips, is to come forwards. So you don't have to have a lift for the head for this. You can just go forwards as you are. I've come down a bit lower because it's easier for me to then go forwards. You can use a chair as well. You can go forwards to a chair if you're really tight in the hips. I think I'm going to take a lift though, and we'll take 1 minute each side, each cross. I'm never sure how much I might need. And we'll put the timer on so that I don't fall asleep and forget you're there. As if I would. Okay, so I'll put that in front just in case it doesn't go off, as it sometimes does. So we're going to reach up, we're going to go forwards, and then you can bring the hands down and either rest the head or just have the head moving downwards. Okay. Oops. And those of you that are more flexible, you're trying to take the front ribs, diaphragm, forwards over the front shin bone. then come up and change the cross of the legs. And go forwards. So you might feel an intense stretch on the outer hips. A grip there to try and relax the inner groins and see that your knees remain soft. And then come up. Okay, so we've got Adho Mukha Svanasana now and Uttanasana. So we'll take a minute there for each one, and we'll come from Uttanasana, we'll walk forwards into Tadasana, Hastasana. So the timer will keep going off. So we go from dog to forward bend, standing forward bend, mountain pose, arms up in mountain pose. And then what have we got after that? Gomukhasana. So we'll probably do half a minute each side on that one because it's a warm up for Garudasana. Okay, so I'm going to move all my stuff out. Timer ready. Okay, so we'll start with Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. I'm taking a wide stance because it's the first one of the day. So I've got my little toes on the edge of the mat, my little fingers on the edge of the mat, just to spread those hamstrings a bit more. And I'm trying to feel the grip of the hips and the elevation of the abdomen towards the spine. Working the legs back to try and take more weight away from the arms and that stiff upper back. And then walk forwards into Uttanasana. Again, if you want to keep the feet wide, you can measure the outer edges of your feet with the edge of the mat. And then come up and Tadasana with Urdhva Hastasana. That means the palms are together, sorry, not together, they're facing each other. You can't quite see my hands, but the palms should be facing each other. Now, I do recommend that you don't pick and choose which sections of this practice to do, but you follow the whole practice. So try not to dip in and out, because then what happens is you disturb the flow of energy from one pose to the other. you disconnect slightly and you don't get quite the same results. If you can find the time to do this whole practice, you don't have to do it at 10:30. You can watch it later and practice it later. But try not to do half now and half later. Hopefully it's only an hour. So find an hour when you can do the whole thing from start to finish. Okay, Gomukhasana. So let's take your left arm up the back first. So bring the palm into the center of the back, facing away from the back, and then throw the right arm up and drop the hand back and catch, or get your belt. And then when the timer goes off, we'll change arms. So think of the grip of the hips, particularly the right hip. When you've got the right arm up, it tends to sort of knock you over towards the left. So grip the outer right hip in a bit more. And make sure you're not turning the chest towards the right. And the left shoulder has to roll back. And the head is in line with the tailbone. Back of the head in line with the tailbone. Then release. Stretch the arms down. So I can see the numbers. So now that I've said, do this all in one go, 2 people have left. So obviously they're okay, I'll do it later. So grab, change, lift that elbow up. And it's only from, it's from my own experience. I know what it's like. You're trying to sort of fit everything in and do your best, but sometimes it's best to leave it for a while until you've got the space to do it, and then you get a really nice feeling at the end of the session. So right shoulder rolling back, left elbow lifting up. And then release. Okay, now we've got Garudasana, and I thought we'd do the whole pose. So I'll just stop the timer for a moment. So that's with the arms and the legs entwined. I'm going to show at the wall because probably most of us would benefit from being at the wall. So put my fingertips at the wall, and then you can lean your buttocks back and bring your right leg over. Do you remember this one we did? So you're crossing the thighs and you've got your right toes tucked behind the left calf. Now you can either stay on the wall and twine the arms, so the left one over the right, or if you want to try the balance, you can push yourself away and then see if you can hold the balance. Okay, so I'm just going to count breaths. I'm not going to do this for a minute each side. So, ready? So you've got your right leg over the left. You'd either stay at the wall like that and cross the arms, or pin yourself forwards. Think of pressing the outer edge of the left foot down, standing leg foot firmly down. Squeeze those hips. And then twine the arms. Elbows lifted, forearms away from the face, look straight forwards. Grip the outer shoulders as well. Shoulder, head of the humerus bone gripping, head of the thigh bone gripping. And then release. Lean back. Change feet. So I bend the knees, take that leg across, squeeze it across, wriggle the toes around behind. You can see my foot there just tucking behind. And then got to focus on pressing the outer edge of that right foot down. This is definitely my more wobbly side. And that will be because of that. Usually it's the standing leg hip. So my right hip's a little bit different from my left. You might find the same or the opposite, or both. Try to focus on something that's not wobbling, like me. And if you lift the chest more, actually that does help with the balance. Lift the pubic bone more. And then release. Come down. And then I think we've got Vrikshasana tree pose. Vrikshasana. So tree pose. Again, you can either do that at the wall or freestanding. And I will set the timer for this because it's a good one to try and hold for at least a minute. So timer is on. I'm going to come slightly off my mat. We'll go to your right first. So right leg up. Think of the standing leg hip in particular, gripping in. You can either hold the foot or bring the arms up. And the hands can be apart today. So focus more on the hips, the feet, pressing into the thigh pressing into the foot. And the big toe, the left foot pressing down, and the inner heel to control the outer hip. I'm feeling that time has gone off. Yes, it has. That was more than a minute. Sorry about that, folks. Let's try again. Still, if you say the length, that was a good stay. It was probably well over a minute. So that outer right hip gripping in, big toe pressing down, inner heel. And if you can lift the arms, lift the arms. If you need to use the wall, use the wall. Don't worry about balance if it's not there yet. If you're feeling tired at late night or just tired after the week, then honour that. Sometimes the poses will energize you. Sometimes you need to do a more supported practice to conserve your energy. And then come down and release. Yes, it's done it again. I've got an internal clock. Okay, so then we've got Ardha Baddha Padmottanasana. So I don't know if anyone looked that one up, but it's a little bit more advanced. So you're going to either repeat tree pose or, let me show you this at the wall. It's Padmasana leg. So you bring the right foot up into Padmasana and you either hold the foot with the left hand or you let go, and then you can come forwards and either put your hands on the floor, on a chair or on bricks. Okay, now I'm going to take bricks because my left side doesn't go down as well as my right, and we're just going to hold for a few breaths, or you just repeat tree pose. Okay, and I'm actually going to do mine here, I think, so then I've got the mat. Okay, so this is Ardha Baddha Padmottanasana, but we're not, the Baddha bit is when you take the hand around and grab the foot, but we're only doing the hands down, so it's not quite the Baddha bit. It's not quite as bad. Baddha. Okay, so bring that leg up, and obviously this is not for those that can't get that Padmasana leg yet. We'll work on that again, in a few weeks' time or in a couple of weeks' time. So come forwards. And it's nice to have a bit of a lift so that you can manage the pose without overstrain, although I don't need it on this side as such, but I want to try and balance the two sides evenly because I'll need it for the other side. And then coming up, you can bend the left leg as you come up and slide the foot down. I'm just holding for a few breaths just to give those of you that like these kinds of poses a go. And on this side, I have to roll that hip out a little bit more Roll the thigh up, because this knee is a bit grumpy at times. Taking care not to rush it. There we go. You can see on this side I go much more slowly, cautiously, so that I'm not forcing my knee, but I'm trying to focus on the relaxation of the groin and the firm grip of the hip, buttock bone forwards. And it's definitely best to proceed with caution when you have a grumpy knee. Rather than getting that urge to go all the way down and pushing too far too fast. That feels really, it feels really nice, actually. When you go a little bit more carefully and you get it right, it just feels really nice not to have that grind in the knee joint. Okay. And then Tadasana for everybody. Especially good to think of pressing the heels down after a big bent leg pose like that, just to spread the fibers at the back of the knee, make sure there's no tension there. Okay, so what I thought we would do then after all of that is just one standing pose, Utthita Parsvakonasana, just to link how the work in the hips feeds back into the standing poses and vice versa, okay? Because normally we would start with standing poses to get the hip mobility, but I thought we'd start the other way around. So Parsvakonasana, I'm going to use a brick, and we'll take a minute each side. I'll keep an eye on the clock to make sure that we don't get cheated by the clock. And you just be in Tadasana. I'll start the timer, and we'll take the legs apart. I'll go to your right first. So bending that leg, that hip grips in, that front thigh extends towards the front ankle, hand down, and then you can either keep the hand on the hip or bring the arm over. I've got a nice little cheat here with my rail, but you can stretch your arm to the wall or staircase, whatever you've got space for in your, or wherever you are in your room. You can be an eye on the clock. Just a few more seconds. Get as much rotation as you can in that trunk. And then we'll change over to the left. So that left bicep has to grip, front of the right thigh extends towards the front ankle. Watch that you don't sink your bottom back when you come down. And then right hand either on the waist or extend it over. And come up. Okay. So I've got one more dog pose, then Shishasana, head balance. And I thought for the option, if you're not doing head balance, is to do Prasarita Padottanasana, the wide standing pose with the hands down, head down towards the floor. So once we've done our dog pose, those of us doing head balance can get ready for that, and the others can do their Prasarita, standing pose. Okay, so one more Adho Mukha Svanasana. Maybe have the legs a bit narrower than you did at the beginning. Just a few seconds here, half a minute or so. So in this dog, if it's before the Shirshasana, head balance, I'm thinking about my head balance and what I need to mobilize in the upper back. And also the psychology of having the head down, getting ready for an inversion is quite helpful as well. And obviously you're not going upside down if you've got any eye problems or period osteoporosis in your neck, unless you're an experienced practitioner and you have been guided on how to practice. Okay, and then we'll come down. And I'm going to use my pleated blanket, take whatever support you normally have, be it the wall. Now there is one variation, so this is an option, and it is quite, well, if you're a beginner at Shirshasana and you don't have a very strong head balance, then you can try this option, but you might actually find that it brings you down out of the pose, which is normal because the control of the leg going down is you know, you have to learn that. So don't worry if that happens, and either stay down or come up again. So I'm just going to put the timer on for 3 minutes, and then we'll do the variation, which is one leg coming down, and then we'll come down after that. Okay, so it's going to be around 4-minute head balance. So those of you doing the standing pose, Prasarita, you could do that for a minute, and then you could switch to downward dog, Uttanasana, the forward bend, or go back to Prasarita. Okay, so you might not want to stay there for 3 minutes. All right. So hopefully I won't be the only one doing this now. There'll be some others out there doing their head balance with me. I'm going to do it facing the screen so that you can see the foot when it comes down. There's a bit of a t-shirt in. So as always, we spend the first minute getting the balance, or the first half minute getting the balance, checking the roots of the pose, the boundaries of the pose. So that's the wrists, forearms, elbows, and then shoulders lifting, but also the hips lifting, outer hips clamped together, and the buttocks lifting up, outer legs lifting. And we were talking about the feet quite a lot and how the big toe has to be the sort of driver. So, you know, if you see that you feel that your toes are dropped down, you have to try and project the big toe mounds up. Not point the toes, but project the big toe mounds and spread to the little toes. Because again, that big toe relates to the grip in the hip.
And when you get tired, try and refresh the pose by lifting shoulders more, lifting the legs more. Lifting the buttocks more. Now we're going to keep the left leg extended. I'm mirroring you, and bring your right leg halfway down till you can see probably the toes in your vision, and watch that the foot doesn't roll out, that big toe points down, and the inner left toe, big toe, points up. And you resist the top of the right thigh away from the floor, and then bring the right leg up. Stabilize, and then press the right big toe towards the ceiling, the ball of the toe that is. As you bring the left leg down, watch that it doesn't turn in or out. The thigh resists away from the floor, and you stretch the right inner leg up higher as the left leg comes down. And then inhale, come up and stretch up. And then when you come down, either one leg straight or two legs straight, or the other way is to bend both legs, keep the knees up high, and then squeeze your legs together as you come down. Try not to crash down, and then unfold on the way down and bring the feet to the floor and rest in Adho Mukha Virasana. So everybody rest now in Adho Mukha Virasana. And then come up. Okay, so Virasana. Virasana is next. So take whatever support you need, because we're going from Virasana to Gomukhasana, the full pose, which is the with the legs as well. So I'm going to sit in Virasana first, and we'll do Parvatasana as well, because it's a nice release for the shoulders. Let's have a look. So let's take a minute each side, each cross of the fingers. And make sure that your feet go straight back, because this is a brilliant pose for the knees if it's done correctly, isn't it? So we'll take the calf muscle back and out, and toes pointing straight back. And then we'll play the gong. I'm rolling my little toes down towards the floor first, and then I'm going to bring the hands, interlock the fingers, touch the thumbs, and once again lift up. Press those toenails down into the floor, grip the floor with the toenails. Watch what happens. Just play with the feet a little bit. If you dig your big toenail down, the other toenails kind of follow, but can you feel what happens in the ankles, in the inner knees, even in the hips when you dig the toenails down into the floor? It's quite interesting how it connects all the way up, just that movement. And if you let the feet relax, you might even notice that some part of the lower back sort of drops, or there's, it's not a bad thing, but it's just, I'm just playing with myself, that feeling of what happens when I relax the feet completely and do nothing. Okay, and change the cross of the fingers. And this time, think of pressing just the ankles down, just the ankle bones. So the toes are relaxed, but you're trying to push the ankle bones down. And notice how that affects the space at the back of the knee. And see you're not pushing your ribs forwards. Keep the top of the navel back. Try not to hang in there, but see if you can find one bit more extension, extension. Okay, and then bring the arms down. Gomukhasana full pose. So this is an interesting one. So if you don't manage it with the leg cross that we're going to do, come back to this pose and do the Gomukhasana arms that way. Okay, but we're going to sit for a minute each side. Let's see. Manage that on a Sunday morning. So I'm going to mirror you. So I'm going to take your left leg behind your right, and then you have to try and keep your feet together. The toes go straight back. Do you remember this one? So the toes go straight back like that, and then you sit on that heel like that, and then this arm, if I've got my right leg over my left, I'm mirroring you, so it's not quite the same. I have to bring I think it's my left arm up, and then the right arm over the top, like that. And if you don't balance very well, you can put, a blanket underneath the buttock. But my heel I'm sitting on is on the inner edge of my left buttock bone. Okay, got that. So left leg behind the right, feet going straight back. So you're supposed to bring the feet together, but you might find the left foot needs to come out slightly. And if you turn the calf of the left leg forwards like that, you'll be able to sit down much more easily. And do have a blanket between your buttock and your heel, your right heel. Left heel, sorry, beg your pardon, left heel. And see the toes go straight back. And then put the timer on. And we'll take the left arm up the back first. Right arm up the back first, sorry. And then the left arm over the top. Because it's opposite arm and leg. Okay. So this is full Gomukhasana. So we're so used to doing this standing up. It's much easier standing up, isn't it? But this is lovely for the hips. Really, really good gripping, extension, massage. Great for the feet. Good for the balance as well. And it teaches you about those toenails pressing down, the ankle bone pressing down on that bottom foot that I was talking about in Virasana. If you just relax the bottom foot, it's a bit more difficult to balance. Just got another 10 seconds. So lift your chest. Let your head push back into that top arm. And then release and change. So come forwards, knees together, and then bring the right leg behind the left. And I know that the other way is to bring the leg across the top, but this is a little bit easier. And then bring that left calf, roll it forwards. So now you're sitting on your right foot, toes pointing straight back. Try and get the left foot to point back as well, and then your left arm. No, yes, your left arm's going up the back, sorry, and then your right arm over the top. Okay. And then press those toenails down, press the front ankle bone down, and see how you rise with that, how you lift. There's a little bit more balance, maybe. We're already there because I was talking so much. Okay, and then release and come out. Just sit in Dandasana for a moment. Stretch out the legs. Now we've got two seated poses coming, Siddhasana and Padmasana. So I thought we'd sort of combine them into two. So if you want to try half Padmasana from Siddhasana or just stay in Siddhasana, you can do that. I'm going to take 2 blankets for Siddhasana. I don't really need it, but I feel like a bit of comfort. And let me just remind you what this pose is. In fact, the lady in the picture
is doing Siddhasana. It's wide knees. And when we teach beginners Padmasana, we often go from a wide leg pose so that they get that relaxing of the groins before they start playing with their knees. So you have the legs slightly apart, then you bring one foot in as if it's going to be doing Baddha Konasana, but you point the toes towards the opposite side. Then the other leg comes in. So it's wide legs, and you either bring the foot in front like that or on top. Okay, so take a striker pose, and you take your left leg in first. And when you take the leg in, remember on Saturday I was getting people to really roll the thigh out. When they took the leg in, to hold in the back of the knee, treat your knee like a precious object, and you roll the thigh from inside out, turn the sole of the foot towards the ceiling, and that way the groin will open, the hip will grip, and the knee will not suffer. So don't suffer the knees. And then the heels can be in front of each other or one foot on top, like that. Okay. And then the Jnana Mudra. Thumb and first finger together. Stretch the other fingers well away. Press the backs of the hands into the inner knees. Lift up. You can close the eyes. When the bell goes off, before we change the cross, we're going to go forwards. So place the hands down, just keep the buttocks as far back as you can, but walk forwards. And then come up and change the cross, change the legs. So right leg in first, isn't it? And to turn that thigh, turn the calf. Keep the knees on a level, so try not to have one knee further forwards than the other. Jnana Mudra is the thumb and first finger. And then stretch the fingers down, press the palms, so you're opening up all these nerve channels through the arms. And also as you brace into the knees, it keeps the knees back slightly, keeps the grip in the hips, and you're able to sit up taller. Many of you I know use this pose for meditation, pranayama. Try not to let the head droop forwards, nor should you be lifting the chin up too high. Try and feel that the whole spine up to the neck and base of the skull is in one angle, one plane. And go forwards briefly. And then come up and change the pose. Now you can either change the cross of the legs and repeat Siddhasana, or even Swastikasana, if you want to come back to that one. We're going to do either full or half Padmasana now for those that can manage. So if you're practicing towards this, if you've been practicing, have this wide angle so that you can keep that groin open, and then bring the right foot first onto the top of the inner left leg, and either you do half Padmasana like this, just with the left foot underneath the right shin,
right thigh to allow that knee to rest down, or you can do full Padmasana if it's available to you, but please don't hurt your knees. Okay. So any pose, Swastikasana, Siddhasana that we've just done, half of Padmasana or full Padmasana. And you can concentrate on the breath or slightly deepen the breath for longer inhalations, longer exhalations. Feeling the lift of the spine and the trunk on the inhalation. And on the exhalation, releasing the thighs into the floor without losing that grip of the hips. And then change the cross of the legs carefully. And then again, carefully release. Now, Paschimottanasana, to extend the backs of the legs and release the lower back. So I'm just carefully stretching out that left leg. Sorry, excuse me. So I'm going to take a lift for my head. You might want to do this with a chair, and you can go a little bit lower down now with just a blanket. And take a minute here, and then we've got Setu Bandha, and then Shavasana. So when you take this pose after those bent leg poses, this is to elongate those ligaments and to get the blood flow back if there was any restriction there. But also the head down position just gets you into that quieter phase for the last two poses. Okay, so let's start the... And remember that big toe mound that we were talking about, going forwards to draw the body forwards. And don't worry about the height, how much height you have is irrelevant now, just allow the backs of the knees to open as much as possible. And dig the backs of the heels down. And then come up. I have one eye on the clock. Right, so Setu Bandha Shavasana. We're going to do this for 3 minutes. followed by a 3-minute Shavasana today. So let me put the timer on for that. And I think probably the bolstered version is the nicest one, if you could, for this session, with the legs apart. And so this sort of shape. And I'm going to have my feet pressed into the wall. You could do the same. And if it's too much for the back, you take the legs higher up. Okay, but I'm going to take a bit more height than that because it's a bit low for me. So my feet are about as wide as the mat, shoulders are down, and then the bolster is positioned so it supports my body but lifting the chest. And then I've got this nice extension of the legs. It's not too high, the lift, so I can keep the heels on the floor and have that feeling of groundedness. So I'm going to put the timer on now. Hopefully you're all ready as well. And keep that handy just in case it doesn't work. So once it goes off, we can go straight into Shavasana after that. And I've also got my toes turned very slightly inwards, heels out, and that will kind of naturally grip the hip, but also spread the area around the sacrum. So you can lift up, push your bolster away, and what you might like to do is you can move it with your feet and drag it in. You can have that either under the backs of the knees, or it's quite nice is to cross the shins and do a cross leg Shavasana. It's another option. And pull it in so it's right underneath the hamstrings. If that's not comfortable for you, then obviously you have the legs straight. Shavasana. I'm going to come out of Shavasana. So it's good to put the hands on the belly and to bend the knees and roll to the right. That sounds right, the time didn't go off. So you roll to the right and come up. And then just sit in any position, swastikasana, virasana, and just close the eyes just for a moment or two longer. Just savor that quietness inside. And then fold the palms in front of the chest, bow the head down. And release the hands. So thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for watching. Enjoy your Sunday and see you next time. Bye for now.